Wednesday morning, the 9th day of July 2025. This is Dawn Train on Rstv, channel 22 here in the Garden City of Port Harcourt, and I am Catherine Agu. I know it's a bright morning and every one of us have gone to our various places of work, be it business, school, whatever it is you do for a living. Unlike yesterday when the rain actually came very early and lasted almost the whole of yesterday. Today is actually different, and we hope it's gonna be like this and allow us go about our daily activities. We're here on Dawn Train to bring to you top stories making our news dailies for today, and I will be starting with the Punch newspaper. Audie, please take us to the Punch newspaper. And here on the Punch we have 2027 presidency. Mark cautions Atiku, Obi as FG slams coalition chiefs. 2027 presidency. Mark cautions Atiku, Obi as FG slams coalition chiefs. Says presidency mark clash over Tinubu's reforms. APC, PDP chieftains join ADC in Borno, Gombe, Ondo, Jigawa. That's on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. And still on the Punch we have Natasha postpones Senate return as NAS awaits apology. Natasha postpones Senate return as NAS awaits apology. You find that on page 10 of the Punch newspaper. Still on the Punch, we have presidency blasts Obi as Ohaneze demands Kanu's release. Presidency blasts Obi as Ohaneze demands Kanu's release. That's on page 16, or rather page 16 of the Punch. You have 2025 admissions. JAMB sets 150 benchmark. Bars under 16. That's on page 6. 2025 admissions. JAMB sets 150 benchmark. Bars under 16. Yes. Another one here on the Punch is US cuts Nigerians visa validity to 3 months. You find that on page 43. US cuts Nigerians visa validity to 3 months. That's on page 43. Still on the Punch, we have Customs. EFCC step up airport surveillance agents against money laundering. Customs, EFCC set up airport surveillance against money laundering. That's on page 34. 3 school children, Okada rider crushed to death in Oyo. That's on page 5. Oh, that's a really sad one. 3 school children, Okada rider crushed to death in Oyo. You find that on page 5. Okay, then moving on to the next paper, we have the Vanguard. And on the Vanguard we have FG battles IMF over reports on inflation, poverty. FG battles IMF over reports on inflation, poverty. You have worries that such statements can turn the people against government. Notes body's adversary messages often in conflict with its lending stance. You find that on page 8 of the Vanguard. Still on the Vanguard, 2027. ADC will collapse in 6 months. That's coming from the presidency. 2027. ADC will collapse in 6 months. Presidency. That's on page 5. FG pegs admission age at 16 as VCs set UTME cut-off mark at 150. You find that on page 9 of the Vanguard. FG pegs admission age at 16 as VCs set UTME cut-off mark at 150. That's on page 9 of the Vanguard. FCT administration, Ureti Kingibe, Wike locked in verbal war. Still on page 9. FCT administration, Ureti Kingibe, Wike locked in verbal war. You find that on page 9. Still on Vanguard, US tightens visa rules for Nigerians, limits validity to 3 months, single entry. That's on page 8. US tightens visa rules for Nigerians, limits validity to 3 months, single entry. Yes, we move over to the Nigerian Tribune. And on the Nigerian Tribune, we have 2027 ADC has no preferred presidential aspirant. That's coming from MAC. 2027 ADC has no preferred presidential aspirant. That's from MAC. You find it on page 20. The party assembles 97 lawyers to challenge fake suits against interim leadership. 2 Ondo ex-governorship candidates, Jegede, Ajayi, others join coalition. Still on the Nigeria Tribune, we have US issues new visa policy for Nigerians. Says non-immigrants and non-diplomatic visas now single entry, 3 months validity. That's on page 2. Okay, then still on the Nigeria Tribune, we have Dangote refinery reduces fuel price again, ex-depot price now 820 naira per liter. That's on page 7. We have issued over 3.5 million passports, saved 1 billion naira from reforms. That's coming from Interior Minister. We have issued over 3.5 million passports, saved 1 billion naira from reforms. That's coming from Interior Minister. You find that on page 2 also. And here, JAM sets 150 as cut-off mark for universities. FG pegs university admission age at 16, declares admission outside caps illegal. EFCC quizzes suspects as customs intercepts undeclared foreign currencies worth 653.9 million naira at Kano Airport. Still on the Nigeria Tribune, we have recovered fund from corruption cases channeled into NEL Fund, Consumer Credit Scheme orders. That's from EFCC. Recovered fund from corrupt cases channeled into NEL Fund, Consumer Credit Scheme orders. That's from EFCC. You find that on page 21. Now we move on to This Day. On This Day newspaper, we have Damagun to disloyal PDP members. Leave our party now. Damagun to disloyal PDP members. Leave our party now. ADC. Tinubu's failure behind US's snub. ADC. Tinubu's failure behind US's snub. APC. ADC is mortally wounded. APC. ADC is mortally wounded. That MAC declares party has no preferred presidential choice. Pledges transparency. Lookman. The coalition won't hand over structures to Atiku, Obi, Amechi, others. Says Dumebi Kachuku long expelled. Then Idris says coalition backers bias over alleged reform stagnation. All these you find on page 32 of This Day newspaper. Still on This Day, we have Bloomberg. Naira breaks away from oil as confidence in FG's reforms grows. Bloomberg. Naira breaks away from oil as confidence in FG's reforms grows. Appreciates to 1,540 naira per dollar on parallel markets. Alright, now we move on to the Daily Times. Here on the Daily Times, ADC will not hand over party to Atiku, Obi, Amechi, says Lookman. You find that on page 8. ADC will not hand over party to Atiku, Obi, Amechi, says Lookman. 49 million Euro fraud. EFCC arraigned 2 firms in Lagos. 49 million euro fraud. EFCC arraigns 2 firms in Lagos. Reps allay fear of fuel pump price increase. That's on page 14. Reps allay fear of fuel pump price increase. That's on page 14. And FG pegs university admission at age 16. Still on the Daily Times, Akpoti Uduaghan, Senate molds tougher sanctions against erring members. Akpoti Uduaghan, Senate molds tougher sanction against erring members. You find that on page 11. No distraction. Tinubu's reform agenda on cars. That's coming from the minister. We have that on page 6. No distraction. Tinubu's reform agenda on cars. That's from minister. Then FCT teachers suspend strike, return to classroom. FCT teachers suspend strike, return to classroom. That's on page 8. Enugu Air debut to reshape Nigeria's aviation landscape. Enugu Air debut to reshape Nigeria's aviation landscape. Yes, that's the much we'll take on today's newspaper review. We'll be going on a short break, and when we return, we'll be talking about the flood and rainfall. Don't go away. After the break, I'll be here. It's still Don't Rain on Rstv. Please stay tuned.
Breaking news! The home is under attack by stains, disease-causing germs, and so much more. An all-out war. But not for long, cause Hypo is here!
Dirty floors and surfaces?
Not on our watch.
Protect every day with Hypo.
Dirty and stains no fit do us shakara. We got the remedy, original palasa. Hypo, go hypo. Protect your home every day with Hypo. Cleaning every surface, sanitize the home. Shine every corner, enter every corner. Your sitting room, kitchen, even the toilets. For cleaning, Hypo now, no lose guard, protect your home with Hypo now.
And just like that, the day is saved.
Mommy, Daddy, we have so much fun.
Germs always find a way back.
Rstv, this is Dawn Train. Before the break, we talking about flood. We all know that it's rainy season, and the rain is here again. It's a new year and the rain has just started. Everyone in Port Harcourt and even outside Port Harcourt really know what happened yesterday. We had lots of rainfall yesterday, and like we usually see here in our environment, we usually find a lot of flooding, whenever it rains a whole lot. When we talk about floods, like the Met announced yesterday, we're talking about the states, 19 states that are to take precautionary measures in order to tackle flash floodings that are to come. Most of us here in the urban areas will feel it's those in all those rural areas and some parts that are actually known for being affected by floodings each year. It is not so. There are a lot of us in our various streets. When it rains, like that of yesterday is a clear example. A lot of streets were flooded. Flooded not because the rains were so much, but they were flooded because there was no drainage system for them to actually, flow through their own way. Most of our drainages are being blocked. Some persons feel it is when rain comes, that's when you see people trash their wastes into the drainage. This is really very, very wrong. And we've seen cases when people who actually coming back from some their activities and finally find themselves being swept away by the flood. This could cause some of those things. I believe we don't have to wait for the government to equally do this for us. It's always said, like we talk about environmental, there's the sanitations we normally do last Saturdays, even though not all the states actually adhere to this last Saturday's cleanup or sanitation. It equally helps us. Some feel you do it for the government. I bet it's not for the government, because you never can tell who will fall victim to this negligence. Yes, I'll call it negligence because most times we feel it doesn't affect us, it's not our business. But you've forgotten that someone close to you, someone you know, or even a loved one could actually be affected by such negligence. And I will please plead our indulgence to please try not to dump refuse in the drainages. This is rainy season. The rain has just started. This is July. From what happened yesterday, so many were just screaming that if same level of rainfall should come down today, I bet there are some persons who wouldn't be able to access their homes. And it's not really something good. You can imagine people scooping water from their own closets. People who go out in the morning to go look for their daily bread, even in as much as we knew the rain started quite early, but we weren't expecting the rain to last that long and to be really that heavy. It was really a heavy downpour. And you can imagine you returning home and you find your place so messed up, flooded. A lot of us went in the rain, yes, because we have to be here. So you do not have to stay back. It's only those who are opportune, like those who actually their own boss, if I must use the word, yes. Even though you're your own boss, you don't really have to stay back because of the rain. But to some persons, they feel because they are their own bosses and they're not answerable to anyone and decided to stay back because of the level of the downpour. So some of us who really have to be at our places of duty, despite the rain, we left in that rain. So imagine you returning home in the evening and you find your environment so messed up. Not just your environment, your apartment flooded because of what people did, the negligence of those in that environment. That's why I said most times you feel it doesn't concern you. We don't really know when such rainfalls will come. Like we didn't see that of yesterday actually coming. We felt it was one of those rains that will come and before you know it, it stops and everything flows out and that's all. The environment looks like it never rained, but yesterday's one was definitely different. And we just hope that that happened yesterday will actually be an eye-opener, to make us really see reasons to clean up our environment, especially the drainages. So many drainages, so many gutters are all filled up. The waters have nowhere to flow to, so you leave them no choice than to find their own way. And that is why we find those problems. When we talk about flood, we feel it's all those who live in all those Ahoda, all those rural areas, and whom we know they're actually prone to flooding. It is not true. We here in the city center, we can actually have our own man-made caused floods. Some persons build on the waterways. You know that yes, this place is a waterlogged area. You feel you can actually feel the place and you erect your building. When the water comes, when the rain comes, when the flooding comes, you do not show it where to go. It actually makes way for itself. And at the end, who suffers it? We. And it comes when we least expect it. I'll keep begging that will please try and clean up our environment. You can imagine school children. So many were trapped yesterday. Some couldn't even go to school. And some who went to school late because they felt the rain will subside. But it finally didn't subside as at the time they felt it will. And You see school children coming back in the rain. So for those of them who do not have the parents or guidance who go to pick them from school, what happens to those little children or those little ones who have to find their way back to their homes? How do they cope? You see people, the level of flooding on the streets getting almost to an adult's knee level. So what happens to a little child who has to find his or her way back to their homes? How do they cope? How do they go? Such thing poses dangers to these innocent ones, and all because of our, I don't care attitude. It's actually a very careless behavior. It's actually a very careless thing to do. The indiscriminate ways in which we dispose refuse is actually not something to write home about. We as adults, we should try and keep our environments clean. Try and keep our surroundings clean as well. Not just the drainage, not just disposing our refuse. We find some places, the level of bushes, the level of grasses in some environments, it's actually something that needs, to really God. Sometimes we feel it's government. No, government don't really have to do everything for us. To make our society, to make our environment workable and safe for us, all hands needs to be on deck. We as Nigerian citizens, wherever we find ourselves, need to do what we know we are supposed to do. We do not need someone to tell us, do this before we do it. Yes, in some environments, some feel it's the duty of the landlords to clean up the environment, to clear the grasses, the bushes around the buildings. Some will tell you that they have paid their rent, and so why are they now paying? Why the rent they pay to the landlord? That the landlord has to take care of the compound, take care of the building and its surroundings. I bet it is not true. And it's very funny when such kind of statement comes from those persons whose landlords don't even reside with them in that same environment. So who actually faces the hazards posed by such unkept environment? It is you and I. So you do not have to wait for someone to tell you to do something before you know that this is the right thing to do. I believe we all have sense. Everyone knows what's good and what's not good. Keeping environments really bushy could cause a whole lot of dangers, a whole lot of harm to us as individuals. It might not really be reptiles. It could be mosquitoes that will breed, and you find yourself treating malaria here and there. So many times we've heard about the 2020 malaria, kick malaria out of Nigeria and all that, making our environment malaria free and all that. But it seems as if as the year goes by, we keep having cases of malaria every day. To some point that we don't even know how to take care of it. These are the causes. The things we know we are supposed to do, we do not do them. So please, let's try and keep our environment, our surroundings clean as the rain is actually coming. I bet we've not really seen this type since the year started, or since the rain started. This is July, and we still have August, and we still have September to come. So let's do the needful. Let's try and make our environment safe for us, for our younger ones, and even the ones unborn. A safe environment gives you a whole lot of things. It makes you feel safe, not just about you having criminals breaking into your homes. That's not just what really makes you safe. Walking around not being afraid or scared of anything like reptiles or some kind of harmful insects, and you being trapped when it rains, you not being able to access your home. What could really be devastating as that? Going out in the morning to fend for your daily bread, only for you to try to come home and you can't even access your home. It's really not something to write home about. Let's try to clean up our environment, clean up our surroundings, and make sure that we do not litter the environment and block the waterways. We do not use dirt to block the drainages. Let's give the water way to pass. I believe there are so many streets that already those who constructed the roads already made provisions for such. There are drainages, but because of our attitude, we don't really pay attention to these things, and we treat dirt, refuse the way we want. You can see people driving on the way and they fling bottles of waste. It could be soft drink, it could be water, without it really being, thinking about what actually will it do to the oncoming vehicle or even your fellow human being on the road. Some eat bananas and throw away the peels, irrespective of where or the environment where we don't discard our refuse properly, and it is not good. Let's try and do the right thing, because Nigerians, when we leave this country, we see ourselves abiding to the rules and regulations of that country. We see Nigerians trying to obey, not to be apprehended for something like this. So why can't we come here back to our country and make sure we do the same thing? It really doesn't tell well of us. Let's try that thing we know that it's not good. Let's not do it. And that thing we know that when we travel to the other side or the other world, when we know we admire their policies, we admire how the country is, and when we come back here, let's to try and exhibit all those kind of attitude we know we exhibit over there, and inculcate this kind of morals in us and in those of our people who have not found themselves outside this country. I believe it will make our country a better place. This is the much I can take this morning on Don't Train. I am Catherine Ago. My colleagues will be here tomorrow to continue from Don't Train. Please don't go away. We have beautiful programs lined up for your viewing pleasure. I'm Catherine Ago once again. Don't go away. Be with us and enjoy our programs for today. Stay tuned.